Good evening, everyone. Dr. Eve here. Excited to be here again. Happy Galentine, everyone. Happy Galentine. Happy Love Day. Every day is a day to love. And I want us to remember that every day is a good day to love. I'm excited to be here with you all again as I explore important conversations about well-being. For those of you who are here, thank you to my replay viewers. I am Dr. Eve, and I am the Executive Director for the National Coalition of Black Women Rising. While I hold that hat, we are a coalition of partners, and we build out our entities along the way as coalition partners. And today I am sharing another story. Myself and many partners, coalition partners, have been on a tour with NCBWR. We have been on the tour redefining well-being as the highest form of equity. We realize that there are 5 social determinants of health, and those social determinants of health are bucketed in the areas of economic stability, access to quality healthcare, access to quality education, neighborhood and built environments, and social support and capital. We realize that it's our position to affect policy, stand in our power, our political, economic, and political power. And while we show up and learn all the things we need to represent our constituent population, it is also critical that we create alternatives, that we be the solution, that we become the support that we needed. I am Dr. Eve Angel Savage. I am an industry expert in the area of health and human services with a concentration in social and community services. And I center the use of technology and creating cultures of well-being with community engagement, social support, and group processes. This is my academic scholarly area, and I get so excited about sharing with you all the possibilities, and with everything that has been going on in our society with the pandemic, the shift to use technology, the shift to pivot to the internet. So many families, the mass exodus, or the mass, not retirement, but the mass exodus. I call it the mass exodus. All the people that are having to make some different decisions about what life is going to look like for them. And we know that well-being is an individualistic thing. No one can define well-being for you. And so, because we know that well-being is an individualistic thing, it is critical that we are seeing, hearing, understanding those with lived experience. That would be you. That would be you. So I'm very excited to be before you again to talk a little bit about some things I wrote in my recent publication about discovering myself and why it was important to take that journey Yesterday, I talked about what it's like to work in a hostile environment, work environment, and the needs, what we need to be doing. Gave you some real tools on as a workforce. One of our focuses is in the workforce, hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, and public and private entities, and how we can integrate technology in a way that our people are well at work, at play, at school, at community, wherever that is. And today I want to share with you something that I think has been a real hindrance for not just in the workplace, but I think across every area of our lives. In our program at I Am We, which is a community solutions tool, I share the prerequisite. There's a prerequisite that I take all of our cohort members through, and there's a very, very, very good reason why I do that. After 30 years of being in the workforce, in the corporate, in academia, and healthcare, three very high capacity employment areas, that what I realized in those cultures were people who were waking up every day, coming to a job that they didn't like, or maybe they liked their profession, but they weren't in the right job. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm glad you asked. There was a study done by Gallup Press called Strength Finders. And in that study, there were 11 million people studied. And of them, 7 million were waking up going to a job they absolutely did not like. Why is that even important? It's important because even as a child, as a young child, I mentioned in my story, I talk about how I struggled on this journey to discovering me. I talk about being born at 24 weeks gestation and what that was like, the developmental delay, the experience, not just for me, what I can remember from my mother. But there was something going on with me. And I want to talk to parents today as well. I was experiencing a deficit that wasn't recognized. I was their A speller. I was good at this. I was good at that. I could read fluently. I was my dad's road sign reader. I would travel with him. I read the blueprints when he was trying to, do the work project because my daddy couldn't read or write. And I talk about this in my book as discovering me, preparing for my season of elevation. And what wasn't recognized was that I had a deficiency. And now I'm looking at that more as not necessarily a deficiency as much as it was, I just learned at the rate that I learned, right? I want to be careful not to adopt the label of development or delay, which I mention those things in the book, but I really want us to begin to not adopt those things. For the sake of this conversation, we will talk about what children born at a 24-week gestation do experience. And sometimes that is a developmental delay or learning at a slower pace than their peers, which was my case. But here's the thing. Just like many of the individuals who are working in these cultures are misaligned, children can often be misaligned. And we want our children to win at science and reading and math and history and all the things. And all those things can be taught when we identify the child's strength zone. For example, I discovered after years of struggling with not processing words as fast as my peers, but my hands could process data faster than my mind. I discovered that was my strength. So what does that look like today, and what could that have looked like years ago when I was struggling, and what can it look like today for a student in school who's not necessarily processing at whatever rate or norm, or because we have these middle class norms that are driving and dictating everything that we do in our schools, in our work, in our play. If they don't do it as fast as Johnny, then they're considered delayed. Or if they don't finish it as fast as Katrina, then they're delayed. The bottom line is we're very different human beings. We process differently. And it was, if they had honed in on my skill sets, they could have taught me math. They could have taught me science, history, and English adequately, because it was being centered around something that I absolutely love. For example, if I find that a student these days has strong kinesthetic skills, dexterity skills, and they're just really good with their hands, and they have a core thing that they really like to do with their hands, then I'm probably gonna create a curriculum. And this is for you, this is even for our teachers and also for our parents who are teaching at home. Learn to be creative with your child, because strengths are an important, assessing a child's strength is so vital to their success. So if I had a child who really was strong dexterity skills, I knew it. They love to crochet, love to knit, love to cook, they just love doing things with their hands. They were just brilliant at that. Was their brilliance, that was their thing. And they struggling with science and history and math and whatever, then I'm going to use their strengths to teach them science, history, math, and English. Why? Because that's what they love. So let's, for example, use someone like myself who loves data processing. That's kind of a STEM technology. That's kind of a STEM area. Hello, that's kind of a STEM area. So liking technology is a really cool thing, but how can I teach her history, math, science, and English because she likes data processing? Well, today I am literally using all the skills that no one identified as my strength when I was a young child. I talk about this in my book. So I want you all to remember that with technology, I could have been taught the math around it. How much money can I make from it? All right. Let's teach her economics around making money data processing. Let's teach her how to set up a business, how to, for example, let's see, one of the things that I did as a first business was I would type people's manuals. I would transcribe. I would literally do transcribing jobs. I would do anything, had any typing services. I would type papers. I had a whole data processing business. Seriously. So with my love for typing, even though I had this slow processing, or what they say was less than average slow processing of words in my mind, I could have learned business writing around owning my business and data processing. I could have learned to write PR. I could have learned to be opinionated about it, using that typing, data processing. I could have learned how to write a press release. I could have learned how to write an article about typing because I loved it. So I would have been interested in doing it, which is what I do today. I literally am a researcher in the area of online social support. That is my academic scholarly work, how to show up, how to support others, and how to support them in an online social support environment. I became the support that I needed. Let me just say that, leave that right there. Now, the other thing would be, let's see if I can teach her history. So in the teaching of history, she loves data processing. So who were the giants? What's the computer? When did it start? Let's talk about the typewriter. Let's talk about the history of the typewriter, history of phones, history of data, history of, do y'all see where I'm going with this? Like, these core curriculum can be taught around the thing that that child loves. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to out there, but you can literally start a school that teach children core curriculum around the things that they love to do. Do you know the program that best aligns with this? 4-H. 4-H says, come in doing what you love to do. And we're going to teach you how to present. We're going to teach you how to write about it. We're going to teach you how to present it. We're going to teach you how to rally around it. We're going to teach you how to win. 4-H. What's your strong suit? Now that's interesting because I was a 4-H leader and I knew that they had this program. So now what else can I teach young me who loves data processing? Can I teach her science around it? Sure. The science around technology. How does it work? The analytics behind it. I could teach her basic programming, the whole thing about STEM, right? So we talked about math, how to make money off of it. We talked about history. We talked about English, which is writing, PR, stuff related to what you love, stuff related to your business. Teach children how to become economically stable in the things that they actually love. A whole curriculum can be designed for our teachers to let them be creative. We have the standard course of study that our children are being taught. And this is what I see when I think about the systemic violence. When I think about how we've been taught and trained in our educational system that is owned by someone, it's not really public, it's owned by someone. That this same system has set these standards according to middle-class norms. And these standards are dictating what our teachers can teach children. And it doesn't allow any wiggle room. It doesn't allow any opportunities for creativity. Not to mention, this standard course of study is 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 a pathway, is being used as a pathway for acceptance. It's being used as a pathway of acceptance, a pathway that says that our kids have to go to college and that somehow they are less than if they don't go to college. And we're sending the wrong message. Because what we're doing is we are perpetuating the collegiate system. We are perpetuating the predatory lending. We're perpetuating the pipeline. There's this pipeline, y'all. There's this real, this is the first time I've really actually evaluated it. And as I talk about it, the more I talk about it, the more I see that this pipeline was prepared. This was a pipeline from school, and they have one called school to prison, but you got one that's school to poverty. Come on, y'all. What do I mean by that? We stopped teaching technical. We stopped teaching creatively. We tied our teachers' hands behind their backs. And we streamlined that this is the only way. These are the requirements. And then we're going to send them to school. And those who can't afford it, who don't have equity, who don't have a legacy that was left to them, are inevitably going to end up in a system of poverty, a system that is now going to offer them loans just to complete, because the middle class norm says I'm not good enough if I don't go to college. When in essence, I was good enough when I took my gap year, because I was on my way to doing amazing things in the skill area, which was my strength. So there's school to prison, and there's school to poverty. I hadn't even thought about it that way, but that's a good way for me to end this live. And I want us to be mindful that something's going on, you all, and we need to pay attention to what is happening. Exploring and my pathway, discovering me and learning, going back and looking at my stories, really is showing me some things and having me to show up in ways that are not only important to me, important to my family, important to my legacy, important to the curriculum I'm going to teach, important to the policies we need to consider, but it's also important to why we need to continue to show up with our voices to support those who are trapped in these systems. Now, I don't think anybody's ever coined that, but today you heard it right here. There's school to prison and school to poverty. And on that note, we must create cultures of well-being. There's someone out there today listening to my voice who can build a curriculum, can start a school system. When we show up at the National Coalition of Black Women Rising, we don't show up with a problem. We show up with a problem and to be the solution. That is who we are. That is how we build our power. That is how we create economic stability. That is how we get equity. We have what we need. We must emphatically think, be a think tank, be the alternative, be the solution that we needed. I will never forget my humble beginnings. I will never forget what I experienced as a child. I will never forget how I could have fallen through the cracks. I am a miracle, a sign, and a wonder of what is possible. And I thank God for keeping me. I'm Dr. Eve. I am the Executive Director of the National Coalition of Black Women Rising, owner and operator of Audacity Group Social Enterprise, Eve Angel H. Savage LLC, and a myriad of other, and the developer of Audacity Leadership Institute, where I serve as provost and build curriculum design. I am the author of the series Touch One Life, Touch Millions, where I share my stories, where we are generating income to support our efforts at the National Coalition of Black Women Rising. I have produced my first volume of Touch One Life, Touch Millions, and that's preparing for your season of elevation. If I've said something here today that you want to get involved and you want to be a part of the work that we're doing, follow us here, click the link in this video, click the link in our bio. And if you want to pre-order the book, the paperback is coming out in March, and it is now on pre-order, full of stories, short stories, intervention, coloring, puzzles, journals, all the things to help you on your pathway to discovering you. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you for spending time with me right here with Dr. Eve. Peace and blessings, everyone.